So welcome back once again to another tutorial, as I want to take you guys through on how to read your tape. So how to read your tape is very important. So I decided to show you guys because it was difficult for me as well to understand. But since I have understood it, I want to share it with you guys to understand it as well, so it will help you in your measurements. Okay, so what I want to show you now is this first part we want to work with. Just this first part from 0 to 1 is what we want to work with. So you use the same measurement, it will help you all through. If you understand how to work with this first part, you can use it to work all through. So what you are going to do, or what you need to know about your tape, this end you are seeing here, this very end of your tape you are seeing, because this is 1, you're not going to use this part. So this back side is centimeter, while this part is inches. This being counted by inch. So we are working with this inch part of our tape. So this part now, I'm going to make here our 0 point, which is this beginning part of our tape. So to get 1 inch, you need 8 bars of your tape. You need 8 bars, which what I mean by bars is this part you are seeing here. This point you are seeing here is what I mean by bars. What you are seeing inside of here. That is what I have already drew here. That is what I'm calling bars. So you need 8 to make 1 inch. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You need 8 bars to make 1 inch. So the easiest way for you to understand, I'm going to break it down for you. So what you need to do, you are going to make, since I told you this in the beginning part of your tape, you are going to make here 0. So you are not going to start your counting from here, start your counting from this part. So you will make here 1 over 8. Then you make here 2 over 8. Make here 3 over 8. Make here 4 over 8. Make here 5 over 8. Yes, 6 over 8. Yes, 7 over 8. And here 8 over 8. Why is it like this? Because we have 8 bars here. So this one now is the first bar, which is 1 out of the 8. This one is 2 out of the 8. This one is 3 out of the 8. So 4 over 8. That is how you are able to get this 8 over 8. That makes it 1 inch. So I want to break it down for you to understand how to go about your tape. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do 1 over 8, 2 over 8, 3 over 8, 4 over 8, 5 over 8, 6 over 8, 7 over 8, 8 over 8. So this is, I said 8 bars, so give you, that will give you 1 inch. So I want to break it down. So this now in our calculative system, this one is known as fraction. So this fraction now, how to break it down for the easiest way for you to get your decimal, because this is fraction, we have decimal, but from your fraction we are going to get our decimal. So let's calculate our fraction first for you to understand how to read your tape. So let me label it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when it comes to division, 1 divided by 2 is nothing, which means you cannot divide 1 by 2. So we are going to leave it like that. Then we'll come down to the second bar. 2 divided by 2, 2 divided by 2 give me 1. You give me 1, sorry. 2 divided by 2 will give me 1. 8 divided by 2 will give me 4. So I will continue, but I cannot continue because I have 1 here and I cannot divide this 1 by 2. So I will leave this part like that. Then I'll come down to my third part. So 3 divided by 2 it's impossible. You cannot divide 3 by 2. So we're going to leave the third part and come down to our fourth part. 4 divided by 2 will give me 2. 8 divided by 2 will give me 4. 2 divided by 2 will give me 1. 4 divided by 2 will give me 2, making it half. So 1 divided by 2 is half. So this one now, 1 over 2, is known as 1/4. So after getting these points, this is why I said we are going to use our 1 over 8. So if you take a look at this tape now, since we have 8 bars to make 1 inch, so this is the 4th bar that we know as the half of our tape. So this calculation breaks it down for you to understand why we have half of our tape to be 4. So we come down, we continue. So I have 5 divided by 2, it won't work, so I will leave it like that. I'll come down, 6 divided by 2 will give me 3. 8 divided by 2 will give me 4. 3 divided by 2 won't work, so I will leave it like that. Then I'll come down to the 7th line. 7 divided by 2 will not work, so I will leave my 7th line and come down to my 8th bars that makes 1 inch. So 8 divided by 8, 8 divided by 8 will give me 4. 8 divided by 8 will give me 4. 8 divided by 8, sorry, 8 divided by 2 will give me 4. 8 divided by 2 will give me 4. Then 4 divided by 2 will give me 2. 4 again divided by 2 will give me 2. So these two now, we can still continue our division. 2 divided by 2 will give me 1. 2 divided by 2 will give me 1. 1 divided by 1 will give you 1 in terms of calculation. So that's how we'll be able to get our 1 inch for our tape. So this one now is the calculative system of our fraction. So what I want to show you guys next now is the decimal form. How to get your fraction to your decimal form, which we normally use for our calculator. So that part is calculated. So this one now is decimal, which I want to show you guys now. This one now is decimal. So I want to differentiate our calculative system. I hope this one now was very easy for you to understand through the process of your tape. So what we are working with now is 1 inch. All this calculation you are seeing here now is 1 inch, because if you understand this part now, it's going to help you to understand the rest part of your tape. Okay, so I have ruled down our 8th stroke as we did here for our fraction. So we want to do it here in our decimal. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That makes 1 inch. So what we are going to do now is to get your calculative system. So we want to get back to work. I told you this part now is 0. This part now is 0. So we are working with our tape. We are starting from this 0 point. This is what we are working with. That will lead us to our 1 inch. So 1 divided by 8. 1 divided by 8 will give you 0.125. Use your calculator to confirm what I'm doing now. 1 divided by 8 will give you 0.125. Then this is our quarter we have now. 1 divided by 4 will give you 0.25. Our third stroke, 3 divided by 8 will give you 0.375. Then our fourth line that gave us half inch, 1 divided by 2 will give you 0.5. So take note of where we are starting our calculation from. we are starting our calculation from this nth part of our calculation that cannot continue. So this nth part of our calculation that cannot continue, this is where we are calculating from. So these are the calculating system I am using, or the calculating form which I am using. The end mark of our calculation. So you know this one cannot divide one, like I said for this one. I just gave you the final solution for the 8th form. So I want to explain down for this other one as well. So our half, which is the 4th figure, is known as 0.5. Then we come to our 5th line. 5 divided by 8 will give us 0.625. 5 divided by 8 will give us 0.625. Then we come down to our 6th form, which we have 3 divided by 4. So 3 divided by 4 will give us 0.75. Then come back to our 7th form. 7 divided by 8 will give us 0.875. Then we come down to our 8th form, which we have 1 divided by 1 will give us 1. So why am I treating this decimal form of calculative system? Because if you want to calculate something with your calculator, there are sometimes you will see measurement that has 10.5, or let me say 40.5. To make calculations easier for me, 40.5 divided by 4. So if they say 40.5 divided by 4, 40.5 is known as 40.5. For you to get it in your calculator, you are going to say 40.5. 40.5, which is known as 0.5 is known as half. Because we are treating this edge of our tape, which this form is known as 0. You can say it is 0.5 because this is your 4th line. This line you are seeing here now is your 4th bar. So since here is 0, here is also 0 until it gets to 1. Then you continue 1.125, which is this first line. But for your first line for your tape now, this part now is known as 0.125. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you want to know your calculative system, so after you've divided your heap, maybe your heap is 40.5 divided by 4, it will give you 10.125, because your 0.5, which is the ½ inch, divided by 4. So if you divide your ½ inch by 4, it will give you 1, 2, 3, 4, which means your ½ inch divided by 4 will give you one of this. You have divided your heap by 4, it will give you 0.125, which means it gives you 10.125. 40.5 divided by 4. So if you want to understand your calculation, you need to understand this decimal. You need to cram it if possible, so that when you are doing your calculation, like if I say 8 points, which one now is 8.875? Many people might not know which one is 8.875, but 8.875 is the least form, is the 7th stroke of our calculation. So 8.875, we are going to say this seventh line is 8.875 because you have already known it in your head. If somebody asks you for 10.125, you will know that 10.125 is this first figure. But if you don't know these calculations, when you divide with your calculator and you arrive at, if you arrive at 10.125, you will assume it is 10.25, because if you use your tape now to divide your 40 divided by 40 and half divided by 2, you might arrive at this part. Your tape might fall at this part. You will say, this thing is at the middle. No, it is not at the middle because you divided it with your tape, so it gave it that vacuum, so occupy that invaluable space. So what you are going to do is to understand this part of your measurement. So you know that if you place your tape on what you are measuring and you notice that it is 8.625 on your calculator, you will know that 8.625 is the fifth line of your calculation. So that will tell you, based on what you have already understand with these calculative measures I have given you now, it will help you through to understand the rest of your tape. So since this is 0 now, if I cross from this one, which I have 1 inch now, if I want to come down to this other form, I will say it is 1.125 because I have crossed from 0 down to 1. So from 1 now you cross down to 2, you say 2.125 for this first pass of your tape. So if this has been helpful and you have watched up till this extent, I want you to give the video a thumbs up and comment down below where you don't understand for me to treat or which you would like me to treat next. So thank you and take care.